and then pass it on to you? Okay, so we're really excited. For those of you that haven't been with us a long period of time, you may not know how we choose to pilot things, but we are an organization that pilots things by just, we have an idea, we know that what we're trying to accomplish with it, we know what we need to accomplish with it, and then we start testing it, because we don't sit on things for 6 months or 6 years, because you've got lives that you're living and groups that you're leading. So you don't have time to wait. So part of this will be learning with you. We will find some things that we will go, hey, that worked really well. And some things that we'll say, don't do that again. And you'll give us that feedback. And you know what? That's no different than what you do with your groups every single time you run a group, right? I mean, every time you run a group, you never know what dynamics are going to hit you and come your way. So same thing, we operate in the same way. And just like with your groups, where you know that, man, you don't want to sit and have everything perfected because you've got people in need right now, same situation. So we're really going to rely on and value your input on this. Couple quick things for those of you that haven't spent a lot of time on Zoom. There's 2 ways you can view this. In the right corner, when you kind of hover over it, it'll say speaker view or gallery view. If you click that, you can go back and forth the whole time, and we won't even know. And if you do that, you're going to see different things. You're going to see everybody on one page, or you're going to see just a small group. So you know, the speaker or just everybody on one page. So today is really exciting because what we're going to do is Shannon's going to really lead this and talk about how you bring a speaker who's going to talk about a medication and or a treatment or therapy option for your group. And then you're going to get an example of what that kind of talk is, which is a real example by listening to an amazing movement disorder specialist who I adore, Salima Brillman, and she's going to talk about GoCovery, and we're really grateful for Adamas and their support of this program so that we can make this available for you. They are passionate about the work for support group leaders. Since the very beginning of talking with them about what we can do, support group leaders has energized Adamas. So it is really exciting that you're going to get to hear that, and that's going to be a new talk, and I'm excited to hear it because I haven't even heard the talk. And then we're going to talk further about how you work with that with your support groups. So it's kind of a wraparound training, so that with everything we do, we don't like to just give you information and hope that you figure out what to do with it. We like to help you actually know how to actualize that information right away. So I'm not going to talk anymore because Shannon's got stuff to cover, but that's an overview of what to expect, and it's so exciting to have you guys on.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate that. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's our third support group leader training. And like Sarah said, we're going to be talking about how to bring a guest speaker to your online support group. So hopefully you're meeting on a regular basis. Right now with your support groups, perhaps in the past you met with them maybe once a month, but maybe you're meeting with them more often. And because of that, we thought we might be of assistance to you, thinking that it would be helpful to have access to content to deliver to your group. So what's a way to do that is to bring on a guest speaker. If we haven't met before virtually, I'm Shannon Elliott, and I am the manager of our support group leader network, our program called In Sync. So it's nice to see you here, some familiar faces and some new ones. So thank you all for joining us today. Also, like Sarah mentioned, Dr. Brillman will be delivering an example presentation. So she's going to be talking about GoCovery, and this is really an opportunity for you to experience an online speaker similar to how your support group members would experience it if you had a guest speaker virtually visit your group. So that's how we're sort of framing this for you. Afterward, we're going to have a little Q&A with the doctor about GoCovery, and then we will, at the very end of our program today, we'll talk again about the process of securing a guest speaker if you have any last-minute questions about that. We're going to be recording just the beginning of our training part today. And then once the doctor begins talking about the medication, we'll stop recording. So just so you know, you can access this again in the future. So, okay, with that, I am going to begin to share my screen. I've got a little PowerPoint. So let me get that going for you. All righty. Okay, so hopefully this is coming clear for you. All right, so hosting an online guest speaker. Just to frame this even more, when you have regular support group meetings in person, there are typically two kinds of meetings that you can have. And the first being an informational meeting. And so that is really geared toward education, talking about topics of importance, whether that be medications or different treatment options or non-motor symptoms, whatever that might be. So informational is one kind of meeting, and that typically consists of a mixed group of people. So you're going to have people who have Parkinson's or movement disorder. You might have care partners and family members involved, or even friends. So that just sort of gives you a sense of one kind of meeting that you might have. Another type of support group meeting is really support based. And so that's going to be geared more toward real conversation with each other and really expressing feelings, thoughts, emotions, and then relating to each other. So this is a different kind of meeting. And typically these meetings are for care partners only or family members only, that sort of thing. So it's a little bit more of a similar group instead of a mixed group. So today we're going to be addressing specifically informational meetings. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on. And let's see, let's go back. There we go. So informational meetings can be run in different ways. So you might have experienced this so far with your online meetings. If you're getting together with your group members and maybe you just come on and you see each other, you haven't seen each other for a while, or the support group leader might have a topic of interest that can drive conversation and interaction for that particular meeting. So that would be a very simple way to have an informational meeting. Another way could be to have some video content. So say you're going to share like a YouTube video or maybe a TED Talk, something like that. So the support group leader could potentially share their screen, the whole group could watch the video together, and then they could have a discussion following. So that would be another example of an informational meeting. A roundtable. So here in Santa Fe, where I live, Karen St. Clair, who is the leader of our group here in Santa Fe, she loves to do this roundtable scenario, and she does that every other month, and it's great in that it's literally going around the room or around the virtual meeting and bringing like topics of interest or tips that people can share with each other to help in various issues at home, different devices that might be helpful, and then bringing up questions that can be shared amongst the group and then answered by other members. So that would be a roundtable situation there. And then finally, you might want to have a guest speaker. So I bet many of you have done that in real life. So how do we actually do that online? So today we have Dr. Broman speaking, and so she's going to be talking about a medication. Industry representatives and movement disorder specialists can work together to create a presentation for support groups. And so that's what we're going to experience today. So that's one kind of guest speaker you might have. And then other expert speakers that you could have might include different kinds of therapists, like occupational therapists, speech therapists, or exercise practitioners, you know, people from representing Medicare or insurance, you know, just again, bringing really important information to your group members. So I'm just making that differentiation. You can have the industry medication information or other types of therapies, and have those talks at your groups. So what I wanted to do with you all today is just present an easy step-by-step guide, kind of just to lead you through how you might go about securing a guest speaker for your online group. So first of all, what you would need to do is figure out what medication are you interested to learn about. So I'm going to show you on the PMD Alliance website. I'm going to escape my PowerPoint for a moment and then take you to my browser just to show you where we have a really great resource on our website. So this is our home page, and if you go to the resources,
we're still seeing your.
It's not showing.
Okay, let me do a new share. I'll share my desktop. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. All right. How is that? Can you see it now?
You can see it now. Thanks, Shannon.
Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so the resources button here will pull down this menu. So if you go to medication assistance, there are lots of great resources on this page, including, you know, just various discount programs, just different medication assistance programs from the various companies. There's some COVID-specific resources, but what I wanted to point you to today is if you scroll down a little bit more, the medications list that we have. And so they're actually in alphabetical order. So as you scroll down, you're going to see all these medications and treatments that are available. For instance, we come to GoCovery. So what I love about this page on our site is if you hover over this medication information, it just pulls down a very brief description of what it is. You don't have to get all in the weeds and go all over the internet to find out what it is. All you have to do is just hit this medication information button. And then what you would do is go ahead and click on the name of the medication. It'll take you to a separate window and the website of the company. So I just wanted to let you know that we do have that on our website. And this is where you can begin your search for the various medications that are offered and just how to get into those individual websites. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint at this point. Hopefully this will go easily here. Okay, so do you see my PowerPoint now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Okay, so which medication? So you're going to refer to the list of meds on our website on that medication assistance page, and then you're going to actually just poll your group members. What are they interested to hear? You can email them and get feedback from them to figure out which directions you want to go. Okay, so referring to a contact sheet. So you're going to need to contact a representative from a company, and we're going to be at PMD Alliance. I think we have, almost 40 people on today, which is fantastic. So it's a little bit complicated when it comes to the industry reps across the country and who they serve and things like that. So we're going to be creating separate contact sheets for you depending on where you live. So that's something to be looking forward to receiving middle of this week, perhaps late this week. I'm going to be working on that and hopefully I'll get that to you very soon. Now I wanted to let you know later in this presentation, I'll show you an email template that we're going to share with you, as well as a phone script. So it just clarifies and just simplifies how you can communicate and interact with the industry representative, just to make it as simple as possible. So I'll show you that in a minute. And of course, when you contact that rep, you are going to determine the date and time of your meeting, and then the format. So what does the format mean? Are they going to have slides, a PowerPoint presentation? Is it just going to be a verbal presentation? Will there be Q&A? And if so, will that be done through the chat box, or is that going to be a verbal Q&A? So that's something you can discuss with the rep when you contact them. And then, of course, confirming the details, which are quite important. So a tech check. So that's a term we use at PMD Alliance to talk about the preparation before having a meeting, such as this. So we met with Dr. Broman last week. We had a little session with her and talked about her PowerPoint and screen sharing, made sure she was comfortable, and making sure that her audio and video was working on her computer. So what I want to really emphasize here is that all that technical preparation should really take place between the industry rep and the doctor. So we're trying to ease the burden as much as we can on support group leaders themselves. So hopefully the support group leaders aren't going to have to maneuver, manage screen sharing or PowerPoints, anything like that. So the rep and the doc should be doing the tech check prior to the virtual visit. And hopefully that makes sense. We can take questions later if it doesn't. The support group leader, SGL, sends the meeting information to their group, of course, and to the presenters. So if you're meeting on Zoom, then you would send that Zoom link to everyone and the password, etc. Signing on to the meeting early, so 10 minutes prior to the beginning of your meeting, everyone should get on a little bit early who's involved with the presentation, the support group leader, the industry representative, the doctor, just to make sure everyone is seen and heard properly. And then as the host of your Zoom meeting, you would assign co-hosting capabilities to both the doctor and to an industry representative, just so that they have the ability to mute and unmute themselves and things like that. It just gives them a little bit more maneuverability on there. And just a reminder,
Shannon.
yeah.
Shannon, I'm just going to pipe in really quickly because I know this is a ton of information and it is being recorded. So we definitely want you guys to know you don't have to absorb all of this right now because it's a lot. It's sort of just an overview of the process, just so you know that. Okay, go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Yes, I know, and I'm trying to breeze through it so that we can take questions if necessary, but we will have a follow-up email too, and we will have all of this information, so there'll be a printable step-by-step guide that you can refer to and check off as you go down the list, and yes, and of course refer back to the recording of today's training. And so this last bullet, just want to make sure that everyone remembers that not to record any of your support group meetings, just so that they should be, have that, how do I want to say, the privacy is what we want to retain. And as well, with these medication talks, it's very important that that they're not recorded. It's just an FDA thing that we need to abide by. So just a reminder on that one. Okay. Some important tips. So this is, again, it's a nice list here, and this is something you'll receive in your follow-up email. But to keep things as clear as possible, and again, to relieve any burden on the support group leader, we know you're doing so much already, and so we just want to emphasize how much we need to have the help and the assistance from the industry representative. So I'll go through these quickly here. So the industry representative, an expectation or responsibility that they need to do, they're the ones who are contacting and confirming the doctor who's going to be speaking. You don't have to do that as a support group leader. And it's the industry representatives' responsibility to understand all the technical aspects. So they should, if they're going to be on Zoom, they really need to understand how to get around and manage that. So that's something that should be really communicated to the industry representative in your conversation with that person. Yeah, and so that industry rep is responsible for all the slideshow content and screen sharing. So the support group leader doesn't need to manage that during a meeting. And then we've talked about this before, but having a tech check with the doctor in advance. So that should be their responsibility. Now moving on to what's expected of the doctor or provider when they come onto one of these online support group meetings. So they need to communicate with the industry rep about any tech needs that they have. And that would include that tech check. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So they can decide between themselves, the doc and the industry rep, how that's going to happen, how that's going to work. If there's a slideshow, is it the doctor or the industry rep that is actually moving through the slides? So they can have that conversation, and that's something they decide. The support group leader, what's expected of the support group leader? So they need to provide the Zoom link and password to everyone. They need to notify their group members and say, hey, we have this special talk coming, don't miss it. And then they need to sign on early to greet everyone, as we've talked about before, just to make sure everyone's seen and heard properly on their computers or devices. And then assign co-host capabilities to the presenters. So that's just something to remember. And then for the group members who are coming on to experience this, all they need to do is just show up and engage and enjoy. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the phone script, which is going to be provided to you in your email. So it's just very simple. You know, where are you from? I'm a support group leader of this kind of group. This is how many people we have. This is the type of people who come to my meeting. We're interested to have a doctor make a virtual visit, and we'd like you to talk about this kind of medication or this kind of device. And our meetings take place on this day at this time. And so figuring out a month in advance, however far out you need to make it work. And then just right away saying it would be very helpful if you, as the representative, will take care of the following things as we prepare for this. And then you can refer back to that expectations list, and then you'll be able to speak about that with a lot of clarity, okay? Now, some of you may prefer to have your initial communication with the industry rep via email, okay? And so we're going to be providing that information to you, email addresses and phone numbers of our industry reps. So this is, again, it's based on that phone script. It's just a very simple template that you can copy and paste and fill in the blanks anytime I have these little ellipses and the descriptions here. Of course, you're going to fill in information that applies to you. And then just setting up a phone conversation, because that's going to be the best way just to communicate with your industry representative to make sure all the details are covered. Okay, let's see. And then just a couple of closing thoughts. Just wanted to notify you, here's my email address. Any ideas, feedback you might have about today's training or things you would like to learn about in the future. I'd love to hear it. In the follow-up email after today, you're going to be receiving that step-by-step guide, that little checklist, and then the expectations of each person. What is the industry rep going to do, the doctor, so on and so forth. You can print those out and have them available to you. You'll get that phone script and email template as well, and then a contact sheet of representatives in your area, which I'm going to be working on this week. I wanted to notify you too about a training that we're going to be having in 2 weeks from today. And it's going to address bringing other kinds of expert speakers onto your group. So today, obviously, the industry, medications, devices, and then in 2 weeks, we'll talk about other kinds of expert speakers, plus some troubleshooting. If things go haywire, what do you do? And we'll go through some of those scenarios. Our guest speaker that day will be Cynthia Fox, who's the LSVT founder, which is wonderful. I wanted to also remind you of some of our support groups that we are offering online at PMD Alliance. We have 3 of them. The first one is on Tuesdays. That's for everyone. We have one for care partners specifically on Thursdays, and on Fridays we have one for those with loved ones in care facilities. And all of that is noted on our website. So hopefully that is just a quick, I know it's super fast. I was, yes, going 10 miles a minute here. And hopefully that's clear. So I'm going to stop sharing, and so I can see your faces again and see if I have.
So Shannon, there were just a couple questions. So I'm going to read them to you.
Okay.
One was a comment from Paul, and I think it's it's great. And I like what you had to say, Paul. You just said you prefer to bring your people in line online first, and then you bring the speaker on after everyone is settled. So that was just a great comment from Paul. And then Norma wondered, how do we run the slideshow?
Okay, so Norma, I don't see you on the first page here, but so what we're trying to emphasize, reiterate, is that the slideshow should not be your responsibility. That's really above and beyond. And so it should be the responsibility of the industry representative and or the doctor. Okay, and so
generally it's the doctor, isn't it? Because they'll, and you'll see that with Dr. Broman, because they'll pace themselves as they're talking, right?
Exactly. So sometimes we have at it where maybe there's a computer glitch, and it's nice that the industry representative has that slideshow on his or her computer themselves, but then the doctor has to say, next slide. Next slide. And so it's just a different sort of dynamic there. But yeah, both ways work. But hopefully, Norma, you will never have to be responsible for that. And in the future, though, if you are interested, we could do a special training on some more intensive, more complicated features on Zoom, such as screen sharing. So that could be another future training.
Fantastic. Okay, and I'm going to ask one more question, but I'm keeping track of all the questions that are in the side, so I can kind of feed them to Shannon too, and she can kind of do some questions after we're done with Dr. Brillman. Then we can also answer some more questions. But one other one is, if you're doing a Q&A through the chat, who do you recommend monitor the chat and choose the questions to ask? The support group leader or industry rep? That's a great question.
That is, and there's no one set answer. I think it really has to do with the individual. Who is the support group leader? What are they comfortable with? I know for us at PMD Alliance, we normally have a few of us who are working behind the scenes. Sometimes we might have a staff person who's monitoring the chat only and then communicating with our facilitator. I think, in my opinion, being as present and human as possible, and trying not to worry as much about the technology and like, oh, I need to monitor this chat over here. Like, maybe we could just talk to each other. Maybe it's a thing where wave the hand, I'm muted, and then if someone calls on me to ask my question, I can unmute myself and ask my question. Sometimes that's just easier than trying to navigate many different window panes, and I know I'm not a great multitasker. I need kind of to focus. So I would love just to hear questions from someone else, myself.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. I agree, and I'm gonna say the same thing, Shannon, that yes, it's really hard to facilitate and track the questions. You really can't, because you can't even listen to what's being said. I don't know how you could do both. So that's a great opportunity for the industry rep to do that. And it's just working that out before. And as Shannon said, we'll get you those contacts and you'll just work that out before. Plus the nice part, if you're doing this with a talk like we're about to, and I think I need to kick it off with that talk, and then we'll circle back with more questions, right? I think time-wise, that's about where we're at. So if you're doing a talk like this, so this is a talk about a medication and or a treatment, There really are some very specific FDA kind of requirements that the company has to stay in compliance with. They can't talk about things that it's not indicated for. As somebody asked, how do we put, know what to put on our website? We only put things that are FDA approved and indicated on our website for Parkinson's or another movement disorder. So you may get a prescription, or somebody in your group might get a prescription that is not listed on our website, and that just means it's being used off-label, which means it's not FDA approved for that. So in case you get somebody that says they don't have such and such on my website and my doctor put me on that, that's because it's not FDA approved. If it's FDA approved, it's on our site. But with that, there's very strict regulations that they need to follow in order to be in compliance with the FDA. And so having the industry rep ask the questions or somebody else have, that's a really great way to do it, because they know what can and can't be asked. So if you ask a question that is something that they can't even talk about, they will know that. But this is as a support group leader. So as I transition us into hearing from Dr. Brillman, I would just say, as a support group leader, that's one of the pieces that you get to educate people about. So as you're talking with them and teaching them about, running these, you're facilitating this for your group and you're talking about it with your group, you can let them know that they can feel really confident, because people can't talk about what it's not approved for. So that's a confidence that you can have as a leader in a presentation that you're going to get. And so the other piece that I would say is, we as an organization, PMD Alliance, we are incredibly passionate about these kind of talks. And I encourage you to kind of think through this for yourself, because it has to come from a true, authentic place in you. It can't be, it can't come from a thing that's like you're reading a script or that isn't authentic, and no one will believe you. And as you know, that's the most important thing as a leader, is to be trustworthy. So it has to come from an authentic place in you. But is actually part of our hiring process. If it's a philosophical perspective that we have, and that is that every single person deserves to have full information and education about all of the treatments that are out there. We live at in a time right now where we are so fortunate that we have more than one drug. We used to only have Cinnamon. So we are so fortunate that we live in a time where we have more than one drug. And it's a misnomer to think that a physician would actually have the time or, frankly, bandwidth to go through every single medication with anybody. And so the more that we can do to understand what's happening in the disease process, because they always include that, and you'll see this, and the more that we can do to understand what the therapies are that are available, the better informed we are to have a good conversation with our doctor. And that's why we're so passionate about these kind of talks. And we are unapologetic for that. So you may have some group members that will say, I don't like this, it's a sales thing. And you can, what I would say is, nope, because you get to choose what you want to do with it. And furthermore, you can't run down to Walgreens and go pick up any of this ever on your own. So this only adds your education and information so that you can have an informed conversation with your doctor. That's what we're about. And I think that's what you're about as a support group leader. I mean, you can't make your people do anything any more than the rest of us, as much as that we sometimes might want to. You can't, but you can make sure they have the information. And so that's what's so exciting. And I think it's a great gift in the Parkinson's space. I mean, not a lot of disease spaces get this kind of information available for patients. I mean, I just think it's an incredible gift for our community. So I say that just as a preface, one, because I always say that, and I would encourage you to come up with what's true for you, because I think that preface helps frame it for the people who are going to be listening. But two, so I say that as an example, but also just as you think about this as a leader. Okay, so I am going to stop on that. As you can see, I'm definitely passionate about that because I can't stop talking about it. And I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Salima Broman. Dr. Broman is a neurologist and movement disorder specialist in Menlo Park, California. And upon completion of her fellowship in 2006, she was a pioneer in the development of the only DBS program in North Dakota, where she was also on the faculty at University of North Dakota. And in 2015, she and her family moved back to, I lost my thing, hang on a second. I was reading you the thing, hang on one second. So you know, that can happen because it takes over your screen, in case that happens to you. Okay, so she moved back to California and was the director of the clinical care program at the Parkinson's Institute and Clinical Center in Mountain View, California. She is passionate about advocating for patients and their families, and I can say on a personal level, I have rarely met a movement disorder physician who is so holistic in terms of caring for the whole family system. And I think it's going to be a real treat to be able to hear from her. So Dr. Brillman, I am going to turn it over to you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Can you see my screen?